Hi, this is Al DiTullio coming to you live from Watertown's beautiful Palatial Theater. Welcome to Watch This. You can get reviews for first-run movies anywhere, but who can afford $10 these days? $20 with popcorn and a drink? Certainly not me. That's why all the movies you'll see here are available at video clubs. So sit back, microwave some popcorn, and grab your favorite drink as we get ready to take you to the movies.
Let's talk about disaster films for a moment, shall we? The classic formula is pretty simple and not all that different from a lot of today's reality shows. You start off with an all-star cast, put them in some sort of crisis, or disaster if you will, and leave the audience to guess which one of them makes it to the end and which one of them bites it in the next scene. The exception that proves the rule is 1970's Airport. Even though Airport is credited as the movie that gave rise to the disaster film genre in the first place, it didn't follow the standard at all. It took a later film, The Poseidon Adventure, to set the disaster movie formula in place. Now, it just so happens that the very first film I can recall seeing in the theaters, other than a couple of Disney movies, Pinocchio, The Boatniks, was The Poseidon Adventure. And I don't mind telling you that it scared the hell out of me. But I was really young at the time, and I thought it was just like A Night to Remember. If you don't know, A Night to Remember was a 1958 classic drama based on the sinking of the Titanic. The thing is, seeing how A Night to Remember was based on a true story, I just automatically figured that The Poseidon Adventure had to be a true story as well. They were both about ships. You can imagine that it was a lot more upsetting to an 8-year-old believing that I was watching something that really happened, rather than just some fictional story. In my own defense, I have a friend who's some years older than I am who said the same thing, that he believed it was a true story when he first saw it. I mean, we're both just idiots. Getting back to the movie. When it was released in 1972, The Poseidon Adventure was a huge box office hit, second only to The Godfather. This was helped in no small part by that all-star cast I talked about, which included no less than 5 Academy Award winners, plus Leslie Nielsen. The movie's premise was simple enough. A freak tidal wave or tsunami capsizes the ship, and a small band of survivors have to make their way to the only part of the ship that's still above water, the bottom. While every obstacle imaginable slowly kills them off. Most of the script was shot in sequence, with the cast doing a lot of their own stunt work, taking full advantage of the dirt, rips, and bruises they all accumulated during the filming. Amongst the cast, top honors went to Shelley Winters, who gave the most memorable performance in the film and possibly the most memorable performance of her career. As an adult, I can appreciate Shelley Winters' performance and her character's motivation. But when I was a young boy, nothing could match the spectacle and the sheer terror of the dining room scene, right as the ship is being capsized. And remember, this was the days before computer-generated special effects. It was all done with using models, movable sets, and camera tricks. And oh yeah, stuntmen, lots and lots of stuntmen. Now to give you an idea of just how big The Poseidon Adventure was, the same year it was released, 1972, saw some pretty tough competition. Besides The Godfather, for example, there was Bob Fosse's cinematic masterpiece, Cabaret, starring Liza Minnelli. Cabaret was nominated for 10 Academy Awards, and it won 8 of them, a record that still stands today for any movie that didn't win Best Picture. Yet it only took in half as much money at the box office as The Poseidon Adventure. And forget about remakes, both of them. Nothing can match the impact of an original. The Poseidon Adventure, rent it today.
We'll be right back. If you'd like to join the cast or crew of Watch This, email us at watchthis@email.com. That's watchthis@email.com. We hope to hear from you soon. Here's Paul Ablin and Manos, the Hands of Fate.
Comedies make you laugh. That's what comedies do. That's what they're for. A really bad comedy is one that isn't funny. Conversely, a really bad drama or a horror movie is funny. It's not supposed to be, but it is. Between the bad acting, the ridiculous lines delivered with deadpan seriousness, and the pathetic excuse for special effects, they're funny. So, I guess it was only a matter of time before someone got the idea to take all those lame horror movies and sci-fi dramas that were meant to be serious and repackage them as comedies. And someone did. They called the results Mystery Science Theater 3000, or MST3K for short. MST3K was centered around Joel, or Mike in later seasons, an ordinary guy who was kidnapped by the evil Dr. Forrester and exiled to an orbiting Earth satellite. The reason for this was because the evil doctor wanted to keep Joel captive in order to perform cruel experiments on him. What he would do is force Joel to watch the absolute worst movies he could find, and then study the effects on the unfortunate man. Now, it was lonely for Joel up in the satellite. He had no companionship, so he constructed a number of robot friends to keep him company. Most notable amongst these were Tom Servo and Crow, who watched all the movies with him. And of course, everybody's favorite, the voluptuous Gypsy. As you could imagine, when you're talking about a show so largely based on really bad movies, it was only a matter of time before the fans started arguing over just which movie deserved the title of absolute worst. And regardless of how long or short their list of contenders might have been, any list invariably included two movies. They were Monster A Go-Go and Manos, The Hands of Fate. Now, as to which of these movies deserves the title of worst ever, we'll leave that for another day.
Torgo theme.
For now, though, we celebrate Manos, The Hands of Fate. Now, I doubt that any director begins a shoot with the intention of filming a horrible movie. Harold P. Warren, the producer, writer, director, star of Manos, certainly had lofty ideas for his film as he sketched the plot on a napkin at a diner. His film project, shot around El Paso and using actors from the city's little theater community, would bring Hollywood-style glamour and fame to El Paso. Well, at least that's what he thought. In actuality, the film's evolution is worthy of a Shakespearean tragedy, or at least an episode of Green Acres. Manos premiered at the Capri Theater in El Paso, and the filmmaker could only afford one limo for all the cast members, which had to keep circling through downtown El Paso until everyone was dropped off. Wikipedia, an online form of encyclopedia, notes that the cast slunk out of the premiere early, humiliated by audience laughter during ostensibly serious scenes. Well, after a short run at the Capri, Manos played a few drive-ins in West Texas and then faded into oblivion, until it was resurrected by cable TV's Mystery Science Theater 3000, which not only reintroduced the film, but gave it a larger audience than it ever had before. MST3K's asides and snide comments during the film also transformed Manos into a full-fledged comedy, confirming the filmmaker's post-premiere hunch that his debut film might have been better received as satire than serious horror. Manos' entry in Wikipedia includes a scan of a newspaper ad for the Capri during the film's run. It provides the startling information that an adult movie ticket cost only $1.25 back then. The ad also has the tagline, "A cult of weird, horrible people who gather beautiful women only to deface them with a burning hand." Okay, that might have been a good movie. Unfortunately, that's not quite what audiences got in Manos, The Hands of Fate. Well, for one thing, the members of the cult didn't look weird, they were the beautiful women. And no one's face was disfigured by a flaming hand. Well, no doubt disappointing the sadist lured in by that newspaper ad.
It's getting so folks can't hardly expect no horrible disfigurement, I reckon.
The two male members of the cult, the Master and Torgo, well, they weren't unattractive either. It was a major downer when I went online to research the film after I first saw it on MST3K and learned that John Reynolds, the actor who played Torgo, had died. I was somewhat uplifted, though, when I read that his apparent suicide most likely had nothing to do with the film. He battled drug addiction, possibly stemming from his disciplinarian father, and it's believed that this is what ultimately led to a suicide so soon after the movie premiered. Or at least we hope so. And watching Manos with that knowledge makes one wonder if Reynolds' portrayal of Torgo is spot on due to his acting abilities or due to the drugs. And in regard to Manos bringing fame to El Paso, I'd never have guessed that was West Texas. During the seemingly endless driving scene that opens the film, accompanied by a torch singer on the soundtrack, I thought the footage might have come from a road through East Tennessee, not knowing that the area around El Paso was so green.
Guess they picked up Shirley Bassey hitchhiking.
Now, I understand that both the Capri Theater version and the MST3K version are available on DVD. Now, if you know that you're going to watch them both, then watch the original Capri version first. Otherwise, there's so much other stuff going on in the MST3K version that, compared to it, well, the Capri version, it might seem a little slow. If you're only going to watch one, though, you have to make it the MST3K version. If the MST3K crew had been on hand when the original idea was scribbled on a napkin, well, it might not have taken 25 years for Manos to be shown to an audience outside of West Texas.
We'll be right back.
Hello, we're the Queen, we're the Queen. Diana was a whore. As your sovereign, I order you to watch this. Watch this!
Now go f the Irish.
NBC's The Book of Daniel got David Cohen thrown off Hotmail. To find out how, watch this.
One day, I was online reading this blog when I saw this headline about an extremist group protesting a new TV show called The Book of Daniel. So I clicked on it, fully expecting to find a news story about the protest. I was wrong. Instead of a story giving all the details about the extremist group, this TV show, or the protest, the link brought me to a page on the group's website. There they asked everybody to complain to NBC about the show using a pre-written, suggested form letter. Apparently this form letter was for people who were very angry about NBC's The Book of Daniel, but not quite angry enough to type their own email. Go figure. I knew nothing about the show myself, at least not at this point, but I figured that if these people hated it so much, then it had to be a good thing. So I decided to use their form letter after all, but instead of complaining, I changed the words, giving NBC my full and unqualified support. For a return address, I used my Hotmail account. Pretty clever, huh? Well, not quite. Because unbeknownst to me, the extremist group was using their website to capture the names and email addresses of everyone using their form letter, including me now. And it wasn't long before they started counting me among their members and had me on their mailing list. Now, I hate spam. I mean, I really, really, really hate spam. And between all those pre-approved home equity loans, the cheap Viagra from Asia, and all those foreign lotteries I keep winning but never see, I really, really, really hate spam. I really, really, really hate spam. And here was this extremist group sending me their spam, adding to the pile. I didn't like it a bit. A lot of webmail services these days include a button. And if you push the button, you can report any message as spam. Sounds easy. And for good services, this will automatically place all future emails from that sender directly into your spam folder, where you can delete them unseen. But no matter how many times I hit that spam button, reporting the group's emails as spam, Hotmail insisted on delivering their messages to my inbox and not to my spam box. So it was on to plan B, complaining to the group.
We'll be right back. Manos, the hands of fate.
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 Manos, hands of fate.
We're back.
What I did was send the group an angry email explaining that I never wanted to be a member, that I didn't appreciate them putting me on their mailing list in the first place, and telling them to stop spamming me already. I know what I'm doing here. I've dealt with spammers before. And in my experience, hitting reply is rarely, if ever, useful. If by some miracle your email doesn't bounce, it winds up in some catch-all box where it will be quickly deleted, never seen by human eyes. So I did a little research and I dug up as many real email addresses as I could find at the extremist group, all belonging to real people or departments, and I copied all those addresses on my complaint. I was thinking that even if I failed to reach the one person in the group who could, if he or she wanted to, remove me from their membership list, someone else would pass it along to the right person. Boy, was I ever wrong. You'd think that anyone as intolerant as these people would be in a great hurry to disassociate themselves from the likes of me. But for some reason, things were not turning out that way at all. So it was on to Plan C. Now, this is a good one. For Plan C, I got really cunning. See, I figured they were ignoring me because everyone in the group had recently been wounded by a broken relationship. And in their now fragile state, they just couldn't handle being rejected. To get around this, I decided I would get them to reject me, simultaneously relieving me of their spam while potentially boosting their fragile egos. I contacted the group again, copying all those same people's addresses, but this time I thanked them. No, I didn't thank them for counting me as a member and spamming me, but I did thank them for subscribing to my free internet porn service. I explained in my email that I offer a free internet porn service, promising only the most perverse porn found on the net. I thanked them for joining and reminded them that they could unsubscribe at any time from this free service by simply no longer emailing me. They subscribe by emailing me. They unsubscribe by not emailing me. Now, what could be simpler than that? As it turns out, a lot of things could be simpler, because the spam from the group kept coming and coming and coming. So I went online, and just as I promised, I dug up some colorful porn and sent it to all those email addresses at the group, again explaining that this was a free service provided only to subscribers, and that they could unsubscribe at any time by simply no longer emailing me. That's when Hotmail threw me off.
More after this. If you'd like to join the cast or crew of Watch This, email us at watchthis@email.com. That's watchthis@email.com. We hope to hear from you soon.
Now, the reason I'm telling you all this is not in the hopes of turning you all into radical anti-spam activists, as alluring as that may seem to you at this moment. No, the reason I told you this is as a lead-in to the news. Here it comes. NBC's short-lived series, The Book of Daniel, is now available on home video, and you can rent it. All 7 episodes. And I finally got to watch it, but only now after being released on DVD. Yes, despite all the trouble the show caused me, I had never seen it. And now that I have seen it, it's actually pretty easy to see why the show was so controversial. It does deal with a touchy subject, religion. And many of its characters are religious figures. But it doesn't make fun of religion or of one's faith. If anything, it's very pro-religion.
It's okay, Gene. You can let go now.
Where it failed in the eyes of the crazies is in its portrayal of religious authority figures as normal human beings, with all the same flaws or sins as the rest of us. We see Daniel Webster, for example, as an Episcopal minister, and he's the show's main character. Daniel Webster abuses prescription drugs. His wife clearly drinks too much, and his eldest son is gay. There are other complex issues, but I don't want to give away any of the plots. What might have even been worse for the crazies is the fact that the personal flaws, these sins, if you will, did not destroy anyone. In fact, they seemed to make them better people, all the quicker to forgive the so-called sinners around them.
I better jog back before she realizes how long I've been gone. You guys are living together in sin? Just kidding. Go.
Ah, the horror of it all. But good television is not, as you know, about moral lessons. It's about entertainment. And the Book of Daniel was, to my way of thinking, certainly entertaining. I would describe it as something of a Desperate Housewives for grown-ups, meaning it dealt with similar subjects as does Desperate Housewives, but didn't rely on the I Love Lucy style plots where the action is all based on the characters making the most absurd choices. And the cast, well, this cast of the Book of Daniel could have made it on the big screen simply on the weight of the cast alone. The show featured Aidan Quinn, Christian Campbell, and Ellen Burstyn, to name but a few. So, my friends, if you're a big TV fan or just a little curious like I was, I highly recommend adding the Book of Daniel to your rental list.
I miss my mom.
I know.
Can't you do anything for her?
You know it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I know. I just don't know why.
You're just playing with me, I know.
It's getting so folks can't hardly accept the...
No, you have to get that other person to do that.
Kelvin, please hit stop. God.
Am I looking really shiny? Yeah, next time, makeup, powder, or something.
In summary, Manos, the Hands of Fate.
Manos, the Hands of Fate.